All right. That load screen spawning in the middle of the map. It is the map itself. No, nobody likes caster humor. All right.
Nope.
I wish I had like a soundboard. I could totally do like crickets and stuff in the background. Like.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
All right. Well, let me just set this up. All right. A best of 3 between 2 great players to start off today for the IEM Sao Paulo, Brazil qualifiers. Well, it's the American qualifiers for Sao Paulo, Brazil. You guys know what I'm trying to say. This is Rifkin. I'm joined tonight by Zombie Grub. And spawning here in the lower right corner of the map, representing Canada, representing Quebec, and himself, as well as his sponsor, Asus. It is none other than the Orange Protoss, known as Desrow.
Twitter?
Oh, thank
Nope.
you. Oh my god. I just finished talking about how I need to remember to do this. One sec. Alright, and of course, if you want to follow this lovely gentleman on Twitter, you should already be doing it, but if you're not, you can find him on Twitter at Desrow Fighting.
And in the bottom left, as the red Protoss coming out for CM Storm, it's Polt.
Korean, American, a mix of both. Oh no, I got it. You ready? Hang on. 50% Korean, 50% American, 100% Terran. Whatever. Anyways, it's Polt. He's a badass. We all know it. He doesn't need a lot of introduction. One thing I will talk about before we get into this, I've mentioned it several times before, and this is why I'm really curious about how this matchup is going to go specifically, is Desrow and Polt have actually squared off before and not too long ago for the Home Story Cup qualifiers. One of the big things, though, was Desrow played a really standard but incredibly good game. Polt was like a magician, able to just maneuver around him every step of the way. So I'm wondering if they've played since, if Desrow has taken his last series into consideration, or if he's just been practicing versus Terran. I heard he's been beating people like Bomber and kicking a lot of ass, so maybe he's got what it takes today to take down Polt. That being said, it's a double elimination tournament. It doesn't really matter who loses in this first round, but of course you always want to win.
It's generally something you want to do as a professional player, but it's really important. I mean, to even have this chance as you go in the winner's bracket, you don't have that stress of being like, if I lose this, I'm out, is already like good enough that you don't ever want to go in the bottom. Of course, all the other stress as well from being in the bottom, maybe facing someone you really didn't want to. Like, you look at the brackets for the winners and you're like, oh man, Huck is all the way at the bottom, thank God. And then suddenly, like, that's not how it works in the loser's bracket, and you're like, damn it.
Well, suddenly then he's fighting you next in the loser's bracket. You're like, son of a gun.
Exactly. That would be the worst, but I'm sure everyone's prepared to play everyone. You can't really practice against one specific thing, unfortunately, in this type of tournament. Of course, really the only type of tournament you could do that in is GSL or Pro League, I guess, but I'm sure they've all been practicing very, very hard nonetheless.
Yeah, and we're just zoomed out on Desrow's base right now, guys, because I have to go make sure Steam and everything's closed. I forgot to do that before the broadcast, so there we go. Make sure no extra lag comes in or anything like that. No Dota 2 downloading in the background.
Why does that thing always download?
It's always updating, right? Like, what the heck?
What is it doing?
We complain about Tuesday maintenance for StarCraft 2, but Dota is like every time you close the game, there's another patch.
I don't know.
Reaper from Polt does scout the base. What it does see, of course, is the expansion coming down really early. Going to put a little bit sigh of relief on his shoulders as he knows that, hey, it's not going to be something like a proxy oracle, at least not immediately.
It actually, like, make fun of that, but a proxy oracle can be a thing. Like later on, because it's just like once the 6-minute mark passes, or the 5:30 actually is the earliest one you can get, you're like, okay, it's probably not coming. But on 2 base, and suddenly it's coming at like 7 minutes, you're like, what the heck? And like your Marines aren't even there. It's
exactly like,
it can actually do some damage still.
That's it. It actually happens more often than people think. Like, you're out of position because you think you're safe, and you're like, okay, if the oracle doesn't come, it's not coming. Oh, surprise!
Yeah. But it's just going to be a robo for Desrow, as we can see. I believe he did get in and scout that just barely. Yeah, he did. So pretty normal. You usually see a Forge go down with it too, but Desrow's opting not to.
Polt, of course, known and renowned for his bio style. I don't think Desrow's even questioning whether it's going to be a mech or something a little more offbeat. So, by going for the click robo, does, of course, give him access to Colossus if that's what he wants to do. It's a pretty nice way to deal with bio, as long as you can handle that nice timing. But unfortunately, in doing so, you give up a lot of production. You don't have a lot of units out, and early pushes, like I believe you and I believe I was casting versus was that Jockshi versus Feast, that amazing push that just ended the game in an instant, or maybe that was not
No.
with you.
Nope, wasn't with me.
Oh, my bad then. The point is, though, like, you can see Barracks pushes with stim timings just destroy a Protoss player who's delaying their tech out. Desrow, in the meantime, is getting that Observer out really quick, so I guess Widow Mines are certainly on his mind. Waiting to see upgrades come out of this forge. What's it going to be? And it's going to be armor, so maybe not actually Colossus at all.
Yeah, I mean, you can just get the Observer and, of course, any Immortals in case something really bad's going on, but you can just go out in a Twilight and stuff like that behind it.
I mean,
Desrow should be safe against what Polt's doing here. He's just going to bait out a cannon and then leave.
Yeah, I mean, standard is as standard does. Armor, storm, these are the wonderful things that make Protoss so good. But with this early push, not quite timed out with stim. Meant to, of course, bait out the overcharge. Might get a Stalker kill or two, though, if Desrow's not paying attention. He is paying attention, though. Pulls back immediately.
Yeah. It'd be around this time, though. He did mix in a Marauder, as you can see. Sometimes you only see Marine pushes, but mixing the Marauder, you can sometimes, guarantee yourself a kill rather than just hoping that it will happen. As you can see, the Marauder does have that +1 range compared to a Marine, so you can't really kite it with Stalkers as you could just against Marines.
Yeah, well, the Immortal's going to be coming out here in just a second, and unfortunately, in blowing that overcharge so early, yes, he will probably have another one holstered and ready to go by the time this runs out, but that means if Polt starts dropping, he can't have 2 overcharges going at once, which could really make this problematic. I do like that Desert's constantly poking at the Marines, though. He's not, like, going all in with this. He's just, if he can get a free kill, he'll get a free kill.
I kind of like that Polt's not leaving. Like, a lot of times you see them poke and then, maybe get a sentry and then they leave after forcing out the cannon, but he's just staying and there really isn't any reason not to, as long as he doesn't get surprised by Desrow actually going for like a 7-gate blink or something like that, which as we can see he's not doing. Then you can stay there until your medevac come out. That seems to be Polt's plan.
Well, of course, this is not a force to be reckoned with. There's an Immortal on the cliff. That's actually a great position for it. As you see here, it's going to shovel away the Marauders. Almost kills one before any fighting actually goes down. Realize this now, pops his stim, gets another force. Ooh, nice force fields out of Desrow. Lock this a little bit back, make it a little awkward to kite in and out of, and this will push Polt back once again.
I don't think anyone actually went down there. Unfortunately, the Marauders got low, but they didn't actually die, so a bit lucky for Polt there. Desrow, getting that Immortal was really key. I mean, I talked about if in an emergency, you can get that Immortal, and that would have been, you're not used to seeing that army. Again, they usually just leave after the initial push, so seeing that chunk of an army just standing outside your door it's problematic, and the Immortal was definitely necessary. He's going to go up to Colossus before the medevacs hit, or just as the medevacs hit. He has to be super careful, though, about not making that common mistake that Protoss do, which is defending with the Colossus and having them go too far forward and getting sniped by the amount of Marauders that Polt has.
Well, check one here for Desrow. He did remember extended thermal lance too, something we have seen forgotten more often than not. I like the third base coming down so quickly, though. He knows Desrow's going to be a little bit tentative to push because, of course, he's going to be just bulking up. Also behind is Polt, who doesn't lose many games versus Protoss in general, does often find himself losing against Dark Templar, so I do love that he put that on that missile turret. Just, the sort of safety net just in case. Of course, it's also great for catching observers with the positioning.
Yeah, even putting one in the main, I guess. Yeah, off to the very bottom. This is the common place for War Prisms to go by, especially in these positions. A War Prism can be even more common in good positions. So I like that. Of course, it can be dodged, but on the off chance Desrow wasn't looking, it's very useful.
Poking on forward once again. This time he's got he's got medevacs with him, but the Colossus is done. Thermal Lance isn't quite finished, so Polt can stim into that. Not that he necessarily wants to, and thanks to the factory scouting, the Overlord, if you will, he sees everything that's going on here.
He's too afraid. I mean, he might be able to snipe the Colossus. Nope, that was like a fake or something.
That was like, what's up, in your face, I'm out of here.
That's exactly what it was. Like, I'm not touching you. But there's an observer right there, so he might have tried to go for the drop, but he's going to wait for at least the second batch of units, maybe start doing that double-pronged attack. Needs to pay attention. Oh, he's got it. He's Polt. He's fine.
Yeah, Blink's not quite done in these Stalkers. It's on the way. It's almost finished up, but Army out of the position the way it will get a cancel here on this base, if not a kill. And it looks like he'll be going to the main. Ooh, a kill, not even a cancel.
And the Army, again, is a little out of position, although it is going back. Desrow's like, the third's already down, then why should he even try going over there?
Oh, but Desrow does see this just coming just barely. This is 2 full medevacs, though. Has to focus on the medevacs themselves. It's not the drop that is so scary, but the potential of it getting away. Meanwhile, main army does engage the other 2 medevacs. Polt does disengage, though. Looks like the force in the main, though, might be a little too strong initially. A couple more warpins going to be necessary to hold this off.
Yeah. Well, just Blink Stalkers is great for when they're,
Yeah.
dropping, but Paul already had most of his army drops. That actually makes them very, very bad, and they can be sniped, as you can see, but luckily Paul just really doesn't have enough to stay for too much longer, so he does get out of there. Behind this, though, he's been getting his upgrades. He's going up to those Vikings. His command center has been gone. It's actually very healthy economy right now. And you can see it in the supplies, too. He's at a very good point for TVP right now.
Yeah, Desrow, of course, would love to have charge, but it's not something you really budget into this build. Blink Stalkers are necessary for taking care of the Vikings, and the Colossus are, of course, your big powerhouse. If you had a couple charge lots, cleaning up this bio would be a lot easier, but again, can't really afford it just yet. Something we'll probably see as the game progresses. We've got the Twilight Council on the way, though. Looking forward to seeing these storms come down.
Yeah. I mean, Desrow definitely wants to get up to that super powerful, not only Colossus, but also Storm army, and Polt would love to hit, do a lot more damage before that does happen. Again, oftentimes Koreans, they halt getting that ghost production. As soon as they see the High Templars, they actually won't get it. They'll stick around, just have a bigger army and try and do it that way. But of course, eventually, if you let them get too far into the game, you will definitely need those ghosts.
I love, by the way, that this factory is still alive. That somehow it hasn't been killed, but a fight is forced over here. Vikings will go for the Colossus. There's a lot of Marauders with this force. If you can get rid of the Colossus, he's got the ground fight in the bag, but unfortunately, it looks like he will be driven off. This, however, is giving him way to attack the third, and looks like this base should go down. Although,
the Blink Stalkers are there.
Yeah, a little bit closer than expected.
Try and maybe target it, but instead goes for a couple of Stalkers and leaves. That's fine. I mean, he didn't take a terrible fight either. He definitely did on 2 Colossus. I think he got a lot of Zealots and Sentries there too. So, that was really well. I mean, it could have gone a lot worse at Desrow for sure.
I don't know if you've noticed, by the way, but it's a cute little move out of Polt this game. Well, first, he's going to finally lose his factory. He's actually been checking every base tentatively with his one Marine constantly patrolling around. Wants to make sure there's no ninja bases being taken. That is one of the dangers of Frost. You think your opponent's on 3 bases, but really they're on 4.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing. Although, without as much pressure as Paul has been going to, putting on Desrow, sneaking in a surprise 4th would have been super, super hard to do.
Definitely very Marauder heavy with the expectations of fighting a lot of not Zealot type units, but as Storm finishes up, we're going to see Zealots start getting incorporated with the army, and these Blink Stalkers have become, well, pretty ineffective actually. Marauders are just kind of built to destroy Stalkers in the first place. Heavily down in army supply though, Desrow suddenly realizing he needs to get those Warping cycles going. I mean, that's the thing though as a Protoss, like you can be, you've got that splash damage, be it Storms, Archons, or Colossus, but you never want to be, right?
Ooh, big Doom Drop going into the main, but the Observer saw it, so Desrow's already moving forward. There's a couple of Zealots on patrol.
Got a Storm, nice Colossus beams too. This should clean up the drop. There's a lot here, but the Colossus are exposed and alone. Although, it looks like that's not enough. The Marauder's not focusing them down, goes for a couple of Zealots instead. It's going to have to pick up and get on out of there. Meanwhile, third base under crunch time once again. The Nexus overcharge is not going to be enough this time, and he does knock the base down. Polt might not be getting a lot of army kills, but he's definitely keeping Desrow down economically.
Yeah, very nicely done. I mean, luckily Desrow had that third up long enough that he does have both splash, and with that, I don't think Polt will be getting another third base snipe. But, Polt behind this, like, again, it's not, like you said, he's keeping him down economically, and behind this, he's, like, supercharged economically, like, getting more command centers and orbitals, getting his production up very, very high, and again, those upgrades. So it's currently 2-1 versus 2-1. Usually at, this point, you might see the Protoss player really skyrocket ahead with like 3-3 already, but Polt's been keeping up.
Well, scanner for observers, missing the ones that he has been able to see. Still a lot of Stalkers with this, and that's more than enough as we see as they really do a number on those Vikings.
Yeah, not really paying attention on the Vikings. Does lose a few for free. Needs to be careful about those Storms as well. Again, not getting those Ghosts immediately, thinking that he can probably dodge as many as he needs and continue harassing. He's up by 50 supplies, so he might just be able to run over Desrow here.
Well, Desrow definitely needs to hold on tight. He's going to lose this other Colossus if he's not careful. Beautiful Storm, though, coming out of Desrow. I think Polt might just have a little too much. Last Colossus goes down. There's only an Archon here, and mostly Stalkers versus mostly Marauders. Not a combination you want. Third base, whether it was killed or canceled, is down once more. And Desrow supply, it's not so much that it's in the gutter, but it's just not enough to really get him any decisive victories. He's going to win the fight down here for sure, but he's still stuck on 2 bases.
Yeah. And getting both tech, he's so low on gas because he still hasn't gotten that third up that while he had both tech, he lost it, and now it's going to be so hard to replenish it. And that's really where Desrow is behind in this game, is that he doesn't have that many Colossus. He actually doesn't even have any Storms left, does he?
Game paused.
2 storms.
You know, a
Yeah,
cute
2
little
storms.
move too out of Polt. I want to point this out. Where is this thing? He did go for a Raven, and I'm pretty confident. Not only is this going to be for detection, of course. I mean, hey, that's what Ravens do. I think he's going to go for point defense drones, recognizing how low the stalker counts have been. I mean, they're just enough to deal with the Vikings. If he had a lot, then a point defense drone would be ineffective because, well, it'd be absorbed in one volley. But I think if he keeps making Vikings 1 point defense drone, that's going to extend the life of the Vikings significantly.
Yeah. Oftentimes you see that second starport either not have anything at all or eventually a reactor. It's a very odd to see a tech lab, but it's also super useful. You're right. Like incorporating Ravens is very important. It can mess up your micro because of course they have higher priority. So Stim won't be second, EMP won't be second. The Raven will be first, but of course Paul's probably going to be able to take care of that, no problem.
Love this kiting going on in the middle of the map here. Polt realizing he's not in a good spot, does back up entirely, tries to catch a couple marauders with that force field. Desrow's not killing a lot, but he's killing enough. Unfortunately, he's taking a lot of damage in the process. Resources lost, almost dead even though, guys, to reflect on how this game's been going. Desrow, who, if he could just get this third base up, maybe he can start looking at getting ahead in this game, but unfortunately, Polt has been really diligent about multi-dropping and multi-attacking, specifically to keep his economy low. Desrow's finally he's actually completely mined out of his main. He's on 1 base economy effectively, and that's going to run out here in a moment's time.
He's going to try and get some DT harassing, but like we already saw, Polt's pretty prepared for that, and there's no chance that he can have that lucky warp in that actually pushes Polt back thanks to that Raven. And Polt, he has so many command centers. This guy always does this in any matchup, honestly.
Yeah.
That's why he can be a little behind but then come back later, is because he always has like 4 extra orbitals in the back.
Yeah, what I really would have liked to have seen out of Ezra this game, a warp prism, some proxy pylons, something to get, you know, just a small couple of zealots here and there to keep Polt from constantly pushing with all the force on the map. I mean, we look at Desert's vision, he's got nothing out of his immediate 3 bases. He's choked in here, literally. And if you could just get behind Polt for an instant, even with 4 zealots, maybe that run by gets him back in the game.
Ooh.
Good storms, though. Really great storms, actually. Unfortunately, going to lose his last mining base. His third is just recently established, but that was a costly attack for Polt, actually. That was really costly for Polt.
Yeah, a little overconfident there, not seeing anything, but of course those storms on the high ground did wonders. And that was a huge chunk of Polt's army. Now he's still ahead in supply, but, you know, that was definitely something good finally going in the way of Desrow. He did lose that natural, so he's still on 1 base.
Polt's, you know, even though he hasn't had any harassment coming his way, actually, I just noticed he does have planetaries, like, all over the place in the event that zealots were to come. He knows that that's the way Desrow gets back into this. Maybe Desrow knew that Polt would know, and it's like some intense metagaming. I don't know. I think he's just been a little too focused dealing with the multi-prong attacks of our Terran. Once again, with some drops into the main, there's not a lot here at home to defend, and Desrow doesn't have a whole lot of bank. I mean, he can make warp-ins, sure, but he'd rather use those offensively than defensively.
Yeah. Desrow's trying to push out and maybe do some damage, knowing that he just killed a chunk of the army, but there's a planetary fortress also helping out the defense for Polt back there.
Yeah.
This drop is doing very well. A DT is warped in. That's usually a very good defense, but 1 scan takes that down. Oh man, Templar Archives go down. Desrow's going to be back on just 1 splash. Oh, never mind. No splash.
Yeah, both the Colossus Bay and Templar Archives goes down. That point defense drone, like I said, looking so good. For those who don't know, by the way, it absorbs projectiles, which of course soccer attacks are, and that's why we see not a lot of damage come down. Relying on storms for anti-air and baiting a fight away from the point defense drones. But here come the ghosts, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, those High Templars are lagging just a little bit behind, and yeah, the EMPs and the snipes go off. Nothing has shields right now, and Polt is only attacking with half of his army. The other half still waiting.
Yeah, those 2 drops really just, it forced Desrow's hand. He had to go all in. He didn't have a choice after that. His army, as we see, is looking pretty good. If he had a little more behind it, maybe he could have just outbullied Polt, but sadly, in the end, looks like everything's going to go down. Desrow with 6 army supply. Good game is called, and Polt will take game 1 in this best of 3.